There's a kind of pain men don't talk about. The pain of being used and still hoping it's love. You tell yourself, she's just busy. You justify the mood swings. You ignore the fact that she only shows up when she needs something. But deep down, you feel it. Something's off. You're showing up fully, and she's showing up just enough to keep you close. You're not in a relationship. You're in a transaction disguised as attention. And the scariest part? It doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, subtle. You keep giving, hoping it'll make her stay, but all you're really doing is proving that she never had to give anything in return, because a woman who's using you won't scream it from the rooftops. She won't tell you she's emotionally unavailable. She won't admit that she's keeping you around for comfort, validation, money, or just someone to vent to. Instead, she'll smile. She'll throw in just enough affection to reset your doubts. She'll say things like, "You're different," or "I'm just not ready right now." But it's not love. It's control. It's the comfort of knowing you'll be there, even if she's not. And if you ignore the signs long enough, you won't just lose her, you'll lose yourself. Because the longer you let a woman use you, the more you start to believe that's all you're worth. Not because it's true, but because you never stopped to question what her behavior was telling you. This video is going to pull the mask off. We're going to walk through 12 red flags that scream she's using you, even if she looks you in the eye and says otherwise. Not out of hate, not to turn you cold, but to help you walk away from manipulation with your self-respect intact. Drop a comment right now if this line hits home. I ignored the signs because I wanted it to be real, because you're not alone. And when we get to the end of this video, you'll never tolerate that kind of emotional imbalance again. Let's get into it. Number 1, she only messages first when she needs something. She doesn't reach out because she misses you. She reaches out because she needs a refill. Emotionally, she's drained. Mentally, she's stressed. Physically, she's bored, restless, craving attention. And your name, your presence, is her backup plan. You're not the first man she thinks of. You're the most reliable one. That's not a compliment. That's a red flag waving right in front of your pride. She goes silent for days. Then suddenly, she appears with a soft tone, a late-night text, or a half-hearted, "I miss this." But look closer. What she misses is not you. It's the feeling you give her when she needs something, when she's tired of her situationship, when validation from social media isn't enough, when her main guy goes cold and she needs a safety net. That's when you hear from her. And as soon as her emotional tank is topped up, she vanishes. Until next time. You're not her future. You're her fallback. And if you keep responding, you're showing her that she never has to invest to get access to you. That's not strength. That's emotional exposure disguised as loyalty. Here's what you do. Stop rewarding inconsistency. If she only reaches out when she's in need, then she's not interested. She's opportunistic. A woman who truly values you doesn't wait for a crisis to connect. She checks in. She initiates. She gives without asking first. So when she appears out of nowhere, don't respond immediately. Don't rescue. Don't rush to fix whatever she's going through. Pause. Ask yourself, would she call me if she didn't need anything? If the answer is no, then start treating her like what she's showing you she is. Temporary. You're not a therapist, not an ATM, not an emotional vending machine. You're a man, and your attention isn't free, it's earned. Because the woman who truly wants you doesn't borrow your energy, she builds with it. And the ones who aren't ready to give you that, They'll keep you close, but never fully choose you. Let's move to the next one. Number 2, she gives just enough to keep you around. She doesn't chase you, she doesn't claim you, but she knows exactly how to keep you hooked. A compliment here, a soft smile there, a random thinking of you text when you've gone quiet too long. She never fully commits, but she never fully lets go either. Why? Because if she gave you nothing, you'd walk. And if she gave you everything, she'd have to show up for real. So she stays in the middle, half inch, half out, enough to feed your hope, not your heart. This isn't confusion, it's control. She understands how to keep you emotionally suspended, not because she's unsure, but because she knows the second she gives you clarity, she loses power. You keep giving, you stay loyal, you keep thinking, if I just prove I'm different. But you're not building something real. You're being strung along with emotional crumbs, and she knows you'll keep chasing, because every time you pull away, she throws you a breadcrumb, a flirty comment, a miss you post, a sudden wave of attention that feels real, but isn't consistent. And it works, because deep down, you're hoping it's just bad timing, that she just needs more time, that she's processing, but she's not. She's already made her decision. She just doesn't want to lose your energy. Here's what to do. Stop reacting to her moments of effort and start measuring her consistency. A woman who wants you doesn't drop crumbs. She shows up with both hands full because she's emotionally invested. So if you find yourself wondering, where do I stand? Or if your presence depends on how convenient it is for her that day, you're not in a relationship. You're in emotional limbo, and she's the one holding the rope. You deserve someone who makes you feel certain, not almost chosen. Because if she has to decide whether you're enough, she's already told you you're not. Let's go deeper. The next one is even harder to see, because it's disguised as being chill. Number 3, she keeps you in a gray zone. On purpose. You're not her boyfriend. You're not just a friend. You're somewhere in between. And that's exactly where she wants you. This isn't accidental. This isn't bad timing. This isn't her being confused about what she wants. This is emotional strategy disguised as uncertainty. She flirts just enough to keep your hope alive. She compliments you just enough to keep you invested. She opens up just enough to make you feel like you're different from the others. But she never commits, never defines it, never gives you the clarity you deserve. Because clarity kills her leverage. If she defined the relationship, she'd have to show up differently. She'd have to give more. She'd have to stop taking without giving back. But in the gray zone, she can take your support, your attention, your emotional investment, without ever giving you the position in her life that you've already earned. It's not confusion, it's calculated comfort. She gets all the benefits of a relationship, your advice, your presence, your consistency, without any of the responsibility that comes with loving you fully. And every time you ask, so, what are we? She'll say something vague like, I don't want to rush. I just got out of something. Let's just go with the flow. But it's not flow, it's stalling. She's keeping you warm while she looks around. And if something better shows up, you'll be the one she leaves unread. Not because you weren't enough, but because she never truly chose you to begin with. Here's your move. Step out of the gray zone by stepping back from the game. Stop showing up consistently for someone who's inconsistent by design. Stop proving your worth to someone who knows it and uses it. You don't need more signs. You need standards. A man who values his peace, doesn't stay in places where his presence feels optional. Because if she can't give you clarity, then you need to give her distance. You're not hard to love. She's just not ready to love without control. And that's why the next red flag hurts even more. Because when you finally ask for clarity, she doesn't open up. She turns it on you. Number 4, she gets defensive when you ask for clarity. The moment you finally bring it up, that one question that's been burning in the back of your mind. What are we? Where is this going? Do you actually want something real with me? Her mood shifts instantly. Suddenly, you're the problem. You're being too much. You're ruining the vibe. You're pressuring her. She says things like, "Why can't we just enjoy it? Why are you acting insecure? You're always so intense." But notice something. She had no problem receiving your energy, your time, your emotional labor. That didn't feel too much. The issue starts only when you ask for definition. Because a woman who's using you doesn't want accountability. She wants freedom to take what she wants, with none of the responsibility of giving anything real back. So, when you finally challenge that imbalance, she frames your clarity as control. She plays the victim. Suddenly, you're the one making her uncomfortable. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you asked her to stop benefiting from your emotional investment without giving anything in return. Here's the truth. A woman who genuinely values you might need time, but she won't get defensive when you ask for honesty. She'll appreciate your standards because they show self-respect. But a woman who only wants access, not depth, she'll turn your questions into attacks. She'll shut down, pull away, or manipulate the narrative to make you doubt yourself. And if you fall for that, you'll start walking on eggshells in your own connection. You'll stop asking real questions. You'll suppress your needs. You'll shrink to avoid ruining things. But guess what? If asking for clarity ruins it, it was never real to begin with. Here's your move. Don't ever apologize for wanting clarity. Clarity protects your energy. It exposes her intentions. And a man who avoids asking hard questions will always end up in soft relationships, full of confusion, empty of commitment. So stop mistaking her defensiveness for depth. It's not sensitivity, it's a strategy. Because the woman who's emotionally honest won't run from the question, she'll welcome it. And the ones who don't, they'll only reward you when you're giving more than you should. Number 5, she rewards you only when you overgive. You plan the dates, you pay, you listen, you show up, you adapt, you give. And every once in a while, you finally get a moment of affection, a little validation, a compliment, maybe a kiss, maybe more. But only after you've overextended yourself emotionally, financially, or mentally. That's not love. That's conditional attention. She doesn't reciprocate because she feels connected. She rewards you because she's keeping the transaction alive. And every time you invest more, she tosses you just enough emotional return to reset your doubts. It's not connection, it's control. Think about it. You're calm and grounded. She's dry and detached. You pull away and become distant. Suddenly she's missing you. You buy her something. She's affectionate. You stop texting. She shows up out of nowhere. This isn't a woman reacting with emotion. It's a woman managing you like a system. You've been conditioned, trained to believe that love must be earned by giving more, doing more, sacrificing more. But all it's doing is reinforcing this dynamic. The more you give, the more she gets. And the more you need to give again just to feel wanted. You become a performer. You start asking yourself, what do I need to do this time to feel close to her again? That's not partnership. That's emotional bribery. And the worst part? You start losing yourself. You lose your voice. You silence your standards just to maintain the rhythm. But that rhythm isn't natural. It's based on imbalance. Here's what to do. Stop giving to earn love. Start observing when it's offered freely. A high-value woman doesn't need to be convinced to give affection. She's not waiting on your next grand gesture. She's not running emotional algorithms in her head. She gives because she feels it, not because you performed well enough. You are not a project. You are not a pet to be rewarded when obedient. You are a man, and your value does not increase the more you sacrifice your peace. Love is not compensation for exhaustion, and if it only shows up when you're running on empty, it's not love at all. And if this dynamic feels familiar, wait until you see the next red flag, because now we're stepping into psychological manipulation. Number 6, she weaponizes guilt to make you comply. You say no, you set a boundary, you pull back a little to protect your peace. And suddenly, the mood shifts. She's cold, she's distant, she's offended, not by what you did, but by what you didn't do for her. And now you're the one who's supposed to feel guilty. She says things like, "Wow, I didn't expect that from you. I guess you don't really care. You're different now. I'm just so used to being let down." But it's not honesty. It's emotional leverage. She's not expressing pain. She's punishing you for not bending. And the moment she senses you're second-guessing yourself, she turns up the volume. The conversation becomes a test. Will you fold? Will you apologize? Will you make it up to her? And if you do, she doesn't thank you. She resets the dynamic. You're now the man who breaks himself to keep her emotionally stable. This is guilt-based control. It's not about love, it's about obedience. She's using guilt as a tool to override your standards, to keep you guessing, to make sure your decisions prioritize her comfort, not your clarity. Here's how you know it's happening. You feel drained after standing up for yourself. You over-explain your reasons. You find yourself walking on eggshells after saying something completely fair. And worst of all, you start questioning your own truth, just because she reacted emotionally. Here's the fix. Stop responding to emotion. Start responding to patterns. Women are allowed to have feelings, but feelings don't justify manipulation. You can validate someone's emotion without surrendering your frame. So when she tries to guilt you for doing what's best for you, don't match her energy. Don't explain yourself into a corner. Don't make up for something that didn't actually cross the line. Hold your position. Speak calmly. And remember, a woman who uses guilt to keep you compliant is afraid of who you'll become when you stop chasing her approval. Because the second you stop giving her control, she'll call your peace distance and your standards selfishness. And when that stops working, she shifts into something even harder to notice. Number 7, she talks like she's single around other men. When she's with you, she acts like you matter. But when she's around other men, it's like you don't even exist. She flirts. She keeps her options open. She's extra friendly with guys who clearly want more than conversation. And when you bring it up, she hits you with the classic deflection. You're being insecure. We're not official. I can't help if people like me. But here's the real message behind those words. I like the attention. I'm not ready to choose you. And I want to keep my options open, just in case someone else shows up. That's not modern dating. That's emotional disloyalty. A woman who's serious about you won't entertain competition just to feel valuable. She won't collect male attention like trophies to boost her self-esteem, because she already values herself, and she respects you too much to play small games. But a woman who's using you, she won't set boundaries, she won't correct disrespect, she won't even consider how it makes you feel, because she's not protecting a bond. She's managing her market value. And you're just one of the orbiters who make her feel like she still has leverage. Here's how you'll know. She calls other guys just friends, but there's emotional intimacy there. She keeps her DM list full, her story replies loaded, and the flirtation always just under the surface. She won't post you, she won't claim you, but she'll demand loyalty from you while calling her own behavior harmless. That's not equality, that's manipulation. Here's what to do. Stop accepting double standards disguised as independence. You don't need to police her, but you do need to protect your peace. Watch her behavior when you're not around. Listen to how she talks about you, and if she ever does. Observe how quickly she calls you jealous the moment you point out a boundary she refuses to honor. Because a woman who's serious about you won't keep acting like she's available to the world while taking everything from you in private. You're not paranoid, you're perceptive. And a man who ignores his instincts eventually pays for it in silence. Next, let's talk about the dynamic that destroys your energy, but feels like you're doing the right thing. Number 8, you feel like a therapist, not a partner. Every time you talk, it's the same script. She's venting, dumping, spiraling. You listen, you give advice, you offer reassurance, you hold space. But deep down, you start noticing something. You're not building a connection. You're absorbing her chaos. You're not talking about you. You're not dreaming together. You're not growing closer emotionally. You're carrying her emotional baggage like it's your job. She calls you when she's sad. She texts when she's overwhelmed. She opens up when her day falls apart. But the moment you need something, she's suddenly unavailable, too tired, too in her head, or she flips it and makes it about her again. You're not her man. You're her emotional crutch. The problem isn't that she's struggling. Everyone has pain. Everyone needs support. The red flag is this. You're giving emotional labor to someone who has no interest in giving it back. You're fixing problems for a woman who won't lift a finger to understand yours. That's not love. That's emotional codependency disguised as intimacy. And the longer it continues, the more one-sided it becomes. You become her therapist, but she's not paying you in love, respect, or presence. She's paying you with just enough affection to keep you coming back. And over time, you become numb to your own needs, numb to your own emotional voice, because her problems always take up the space. Here's what to do. Stop confusing emotional dumping with emotional intimacy. Real connection is mutual. Real love is balanced. You are not a savior. You are not a project manager for her trauma. You are a man, and your peace matters just as much as hers. So the next time you feel drained instead of energized after talking to her, ask yourself one question. Does she know me? Or does she just use me to process herself? Because if the relationship is always about her pain, you're not growing, you're slowly disappearing. You're not being strong by carrying her weight. You're being forgotten while doing all the work. And what makes this worse? She might act like she wants more from you, but watch what she does in public. Number 9, she publicly distances herself from you. In private, she's warm, she flirts, she shares pieces of herself, she calls you babe, talks about how much she values the connection, and maybe, just maybe, even sleeps next to you. But the moment the world is watching, she disappears. No acknowledgement, no sign of you in her social circle, no story tags, no photos, no clarity, just radio silence. You're not her man. You're her emotional secret. She wants the benefits of closeness, but she's not willing to be seen with you in public. Not online, not in her friend group, not when someone else might be watching. And if you ever bring it up, she's quick to dismiss it. I'm just private. I don't like people in my business. I've been hurt before. Not everything has to go on Instagram, but watch her closely. She's private about you, yet she posts quotes about love. She shows off her nights out. She uploads full selfies in new dresses, smiling, glowing, while you sit silent in her shadow like you don't exist. This isn't about being low-key. It's about emotional concealment. Because when a woman sees a future with you, she doesn't hide your presence. She might not blast it, but she's proud of who you are. She'll speak your name. She'll protect your image. She'll make it clear to others. This man matters to me. But when she keeps you invisible, it's not about protecting the relationship. It's about keeping her options open, so no one assumes she's unavailable. Here's what to do. Stop settling for privacy that feels like secrecy. Your presence should be felt, not just in her inbox, but in her life. A woman who can accept your love in the dark, but won't claim you in the light, isn't protecting you. She's preserving her ability to act single. And if she can't be seen with you, she shouldn't be supported by you. Because love doesn't need to be loud, but it should never feel like you're hidden. And that brings us to the next red flag, one where she's not just hiding you from the world. She's making you feel like you're never quite enough. Number 10, you constantly feel like you're auditioning. You don't feel chosen. You feel like you're trying out, again and again. You're always adjusting your tone, double-checking your texts, second-guessing whether you said too much or too little. You're watching her reactions like cues, trying to say the right thing, do the right thing, be the version of you that she'll finally approve of. That's not connection, that's performance. And the worst part? The role keeps changing. One day she wants you sweet and attentive. The next she pulls away when you give her too much attention. One day she praises you for being patient. The next she says she wishes you were more assertive. You're not building a bond. You're jumping through unwritten hoops. And you keep thinking, maybe I just haven't shown her my best yet. Maybe if I give her more space, she'll respect me. Maybe if I impress her just a little more, she'll finally choose me. But here's the brutal truth. A woman who truly values you doesn't make you prove yourself every day. She makes you feel safe to just be yourself. She doesn't create an invisible scoreboard. She doesn't hold back affection until you earn it. She doesn't make you feel like your masculinity is being tested on every date. But when you're stuck in the audition phase, you start shrinking. You say less. You ask for less. You become agreeable, overly flexible, always checking if she's still feeling it. That's not attraction. That's emotional survival mode. Here's what you need to understand. You don't have to perform for the right woman. A woman who's serious about you won't make you guess your value. She'll reflect it. She'll nurture it. She'll show you that your presence is enough, not your performance. And if she needs constant proof just to give you basic connection, she's not choosing you. She's consuming you. You're not a candidate. You're a man. And any woman who makes you feel replaceable is already showing you her priorities. And when all that performance burns you out, you'll start noticing something deeper. You're constantly emotionally exhausted, and she's thriving off your silence. Number 11, you feel drained after interacting with her. It's subtle at first. You finish the call, and you feel off. You hang out for a few hours, and afterward, you're more exhausted than before. And it happens again. and again, until you realize you're not just spending time with her, you're losing energy around her. This is one of the most ignored red flags, because you keep telling yourself, relationships take effort. She's just going through a lot. I'm just tired today. But it's not about the day. It's about the pattern. You're constantly giving, supporting, listening, uplifting, and she's constantly taking, emotionally, mentally, sometimes even financially. Every conversation revolves around her needs. Every interaction ends with you carrying something, her mood, her stress, her confusion. But what's she carrying for you? You find yourself emotionally tapped out. Your mood drops. Your focus slips. You're not present for your own goals, your own peace, your own people, because she's taken up all the bandwidth. She doesn't even have to be toxic in an obvious way. This kind of dynamic isn't always loud. It's draining in silence. And the most dangerous part? You've normalized it. You've convinced yourself that this is what real relationships feel like, that it's your job to hold both sides together, that her presence is worth the emotional weight it costs. But here's the truth. The right woman will energize your life, not empty it. She won't make you feel like love is labor. She won't leave you depleted. She won't make you pay for her chaos in silence, then act like you're distant. When you're around the right energy, you'll feel calm, grounded, present, at peace. But when you're being used, you'll feel exhausted and still wondering if you're doing enough. Here's your move. Stop evaluating the connection based on what you hope it could become. Start paying attention to how you feel after every interaction. Your nervous system isn't lying to you. That drained feeling isn't love. It's imbalance. You weren't meant to pour into someone who pokes holes in your peace. You were meant to build something that feeds you both. And the last red flag? It's the one you already know is true, but you've been afraid to admit it. Number 12, you can't shake the feeling. Something's off, but you ignore it. This one doesn't show up in her words. It doesn't always show up in her behavior. It shows up in you. You're with her, but you're tense. You hear what she says, but something doesn't sit right. You smile, but inside, you're unsure. There's a quiet discomfort behind everything. Not fear, not drama. Just a lingering sense that this isn't what it's supposed to feel like. You're doubting your own instincts. Your gut tells you, she's not here for the right reasons. But your heart says, maybe I'm just overthinking it. You make excuses. You say, she's just guarded. She's been through a lot. This is what modern dating is like now. But the truth? You feel used, not because you're paranoid, but because she's taking without building. Your energy, your effort, your time, your emotional bandwidth. And the reason you keep ignoring the feeling is because you're hoping that if you just love her better, she'll finally show up different. But that day doesn't come, because women don't magically respect a man who doesn't respect himself. They don't suddenly give love to the man who made himself emotionally cheap. Your intuition is not a flaw, it's a warning. And every time you silence it to keep the fantasy alive, you lose a piece of the man you were becoming. So here's the move. Trust the quiet signals. If your gut feels off, if your peace is missing, if your mind is constantly spinning to justify her actions, that's not alignment. That's survival. You weren't built to live in emotional fog. You were built to lead with clarity. And clarity starts with listening to the voice you've been ignoring. When a woman is for you, you'll feel steady. When she's using you, you'll feel anxious, unsure, and overextended. And if that's how you've been feeling, you already know what this is. You weren't crazy. You weren't needy. You weren't too much. You were just slowly being drained by someone who never planned to pour anything back into you. The truth is, most men don't realize they're being used until they're already running on empty. And by then, it's not just the woman you've lost. It's your standards, your self-respect, your sense of peace. Because being used doesn't always look like being taken advantage of. Sometimes it looks like chasing clarity that never comes, or giving love that's never matched, or sacrificing yourself just to be tolerated. But you're not here to audition for someone's attention. You're not a provider of endless energy for someone who gives you emotional scraps. You're a man, and that means your love is sacred, your presence is valuable, and your attention is not a gift to be handed out to people who haven't earned it. These 12 red flags, they're not just warnings, they're reminders. If something feels off, it probably is. And if you have to ask where you stand, you're probably standing alone. So here's what you do next. Cut the emotional contracts you never signed. Walk away from dynamics that demand your peace as payment. Stop asking her to love you better and start loving yourself enough to leave. Because the woman who truly sees you, she won't make you guess. She won't keep you in limbo. She won't wait until you're burned out to finally offer warmth. She'll meet you with clarity, presence, and peace, not conditions. Drop a comment if you've ever ignored a red flag and paid for it later. Comment, "I saw the signs. I just didn't want them to be true." Like this video if it helped you see something you've been ignoring. Subscribe for weekly masculine honest content, the kind that doesn't sugarcoat what men are really going through. Because this channel isn't about blaming her. It's about building you, so no one ever uses you again.